15 longest-lasting Hollywood marriages you'd never recognize today. Hollywood is famous for quick romances, messy divorces, and love stories that vanish almost overnight. But some couples proved that lasting marriage was still possible under fame, pressure, scandal, and time. Stay with us and subscribe to Classic Hollywood Legends as we look back at the strongest marriages Hollywood ever gave us. Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson. Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson did not begin as a dramatic Hollywood love story. They first met in 1981 on the set of the sitcom Bosom Buddies, when Hanks was still married to Samantha Lewis. At the time, Wilson was simply another actress passing through his professional world. But the connection stayed. Years later, while working together on Volunteers, that friendship turned into something deeper. Hanks had separated from his first wife, and Wilson entered his life during a complicated period, not a polished fairy tale beginning. In 1988, they married, and Rita became part of a blended family that included Hanks's children, Colin and Elizabeth. Together, they later welcomed 2 sons, Chet and Truman. What makes their marriage stand out is not perfection, but how long they kept choosing each other. Their bond has been tested in ways that went far beyond red carpets. Rita faced breast cancer in 2015, undergoing surgery and treatment, while Hanks remained publicly and privately by her side. In 2020, both were diagnosed with COVID-19, while in Australia, turning them into one of the first major celebrity couples publicly linked to the pandemic. Through it all, they never sold their marriage as magic. Hanks has described lasting love as work timing and a willingness to show up. Wilson has pointed to communication, shared values, and growing together instead of staying frozen in the past. By 2026, Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson had been married for 38 years. In an industry known for short romances and public breakups, their relationship remains one of Hollywood's clearest examples of steady, enduring partnership. Sharon Osbourne and Ozzy Osbourne. Few celebrity marriages looked as unstable from the outside as Sharon and Ozzy Osbourne's. One was the sharp business mind who helped rescue his career. The other was rock's Prince of Darkness, famous for chaos long before reality television made their family a household name. Somehow, out of all that noise, their marriage survived for more than 40 years. Sharon first knew Ozzy through music before she became his wife. Her father had managed Black Sabbath, and after Ozzy was pushed out of the band, Sharon helped rebuild his solo career. Their relationship grew out of chaos, ambition, and survival. They married on July 4th, 1982, beginning a life that mixed family fame, addiction struggles, and constant public attention. What made them stay when so many other couples would have walked away for good? Their marriage faced moments that were far darker than ordinary celebrity gossip. Ozzy's substance abuse created serious danger and instability, including a 1989 domestic violence arrest that forced both of them to confront how bad things had become. Years later, in 2016, his infidelity led to a public separation. Sharon was hurt, angry, and openly questioned whether the marriage could continue, but they returned to each other. In 2017, they renewed their vows not as a perfect couple, but as 2 people who understood exactly what had been broken. Their family life also became a television phenomenon, through the Osbournes turning their private dysfunction into a strangely honest portrait of loyalty. Ozzy's later years brought Parkinson's disease, canceled performances, and declining health. Sharon remained one of the central figures beside him until his death in 2025. Their marriage was not simple romance. It was endurance through damage, forgiveness, fame, illness, and decades of choosing not to let go. Sam Elliott and Catherine Ross. Before Sam Elliott became one of Hollywood's most recognizable voices, he was just card player number 2 in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Catherine Ross, meanwhile, was already a leading lady in the same film. Elliott later admitted he did not dare approach her, She was the star. He felt like a background face in a bar scene. Nearly 10 years passed before the timing changed. In 1978, they worked together again on the horror film The Legacy. This time, Elliot was no longer the silent admirer standing at a distance. Ross noticed him properly, his calm presence, deep voice, and old-school confidence. What had once been impossible finally became real. How often does Hollywood give two people a second chance at the right moment? They married in 1984, and their relationship grew away from the usual noise of celebrity life. Ross had been married before, while Elliot was still building the career that would later make him famous in westerns, dramas, and eventually, A Star is Born. Instead of turning their private life into publicity, they kept it grounded. They raised their daughter Cleo and split their time between work and a quieter home life. Elliot has often spoken about commitment as something practical, not glamorous. To him, staying together means patience, listening, and not walking away when life becomes difficult. By 2026, Sam Elliott and Catherine Ross had been married for more than 40 years. Their story is not built on scandal or constant headlines. It is built on timing, restraint, loyalty, and a connection that waited until both of them were finally ready. Jamie Lee Curtis and Christopher Guest. Jamie Lee Curtis did not meet Christopher Guest at a romantic dinner or on a movie set. She saw his picture in a magazine. It was 1984, and Guest had just become famous as Nigel Tufnell in This Is Spinal Tap. Curtis pointed at the photo and told her friend screenwriter Deborah Hill that she was going to marry him. At first, nothing happened. Guest did not call right away, and Curtis went on with her life. Then fate gave the story a second push. They crossed paths at a restaurant, finally spoke, and began dating soon after. By December 18, 1984, only a few months after that magazine moment, they were married. How many Hollywood couples begin with a photo and last for more than 4 decades? Their home life never became a loud celebrity circus. Curtis remained the outspoken actress from Halloween, True Lies, Freaky Friday, and later Everything Everywhere All at Once. Guest stayed more private, building a career through sharp comedy writing, directing, and mockumentary films. Together they raised 2 daughters, Annie and Ruby, while keeping much of their family life away from constant publicity. Curtis has never pretended that marriage survives on romance alone. She has spoken about anger, frustration, patience, and the decision not to leave during difficult moments. Coming from a famous family marked by multiple divorces, she understood how easily relationships could break. By 2025, Jamie Lee Curtis and Christopher Guest had passed 40 years of marriage. Their story is unusual because it began almost impulsively, then lasted through careers, parenthood, grief, reinvention, and age. In Hollywood, that kind of staying power is rare. Denzel Washington and Pauletta Washington. They first crossed paths in 1977 while working on the television movie Wilma Denzel Washington's first screen role. Their connection did not instantly turn into a polished Hollywood romance. They met again later, began spending more time together, and slowly built something stronger than attraction. By June 25, 1983, Pauletta finally accepted the future he had been asking for, and they became husband and wife. That beginning matters, because Pauletta was never just swept away by a rising star. Denzel reportedly had to propose more than once before she said yes. She took her time, trusted her own judgment, and entered the marriage as someone with her own strength, not simply as the woman beside a famous man. What makes their marriage powerful is that Pauletta was never just standing in Denzel's shadow. As Denzel's career grew through Glory, Malcolm X, Training Day, and many other films, Pauletta helped protect the center of their family. She was also an actress-singer and classically trained musician, but she often placed home stability and their children at the heart of her life. Together they raised John, David, Katia, Malcolm, and Olivia, all of whom later built creative paths of their own. Their marriage has lasted through fame, pressure, long filming schedules, and many other films, Pauletta helped protect the center of their family. She was also an actress-singer and classically trained musician, but she often placed home stability and their children at the heart of her life. Together they raised John, David, Katia, Malcolm, and Olivia, all of whom later built creative paths of their own. Their marriage has lasted through fame, pressure, long filming schedules, public attention, and the ordinary struggles that never appear on red carpets. Denzel has often credited Pauletta as the backbone of their home, while Pauletta has spoken about love requiring work, forgiveness, and patience. By 2026, Denzel and Pauletta Washington had been married for more than 40 years. Their story stands out because it was not built on perfection. It was built on loyalty, faith, family, and the daily decision to keep choosing each other. Samuel L. Jackson and LaTanya Richardson. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson and LaTanya Richardson. Jackson did not begin their story under studio lights. They met as young students in Atlanta, with Samuel attending Morehouse College and LaTanya studying at Spelman. Long before Marvel Pulp Fiction or Broadway honors, they were two ambitious performers trying to figure out who they were and where their lives might go. They married in 1980 and welcomed their daughter Zoe 2 years later. But their early years were not easy. Samuel struggled with addiction before his career fully broke open, and LaTanya had to decide whether the man she loved was still worth fighting for. She did not excuse the damage, but she also did not walk away when recovery became possible. How many Hollywood marriages survive before the fame even arrives? Samuel has credited LaTanya with giving him the chance to become the man he was supposed to be. After rehab, his career changed dramatically, especially with Jungle Fever, Pulp Fiction, and the long run of unforgettable characters that followed. But behind the scenes, LaTanya was never just the wife. She was an actress, producer, director, and stage performer with her own respected career. Their marriage also carried a deeper purpose. They once made a pact to stay together, partly to challenge the idea that Black families could not remain whole under pressure. That promise became a foundation through work, parenting, illness, aging, and fame. By 2025, Samuel and LaTanya had celebrated 45 years of marriage. Their relationship stands out because it was built before the spotlight, tested before the awards, and still strong after both of them had earned their own place in American entertainment. Meryl Streep and Don Gummer. Meryl Streep met Don Gummer during one of the hardest periods of her life. In 1978, she was grieving the death of actor John Cazale, the man she had loved, and suddenly found herself without the home they had shared. Her brother introduced her to Gummer, a sculptor, and what began as support during grief quickly became something deeper. They married later that same year. To many people, the timing looked sudden, but their relationship soon became one of Hollywood's quietest long unions. While Streep rose into one of the most acclaimed actresses in film history, Gummer stayed largely outside the spotlight. He built his own career in sculpture and rarely tried to compete with the attention surrounding his wife. How did one of the world's most famous actresses keep so much of her private life hidden? Together, they raised 4 children, Henry, Mamie Grace, and Louisa. Streep often thanked Gummer publicly, most memorably during award speeches, giving him credit for the life and family behind her career. Their partnership appeared steady because it was not constantly performed for cameras. But the full story changed in 2023. A representative confirmed that Streep and Gummer had been separated for more than 6 years. They had chosen lives apart, even though they continued to care for each other. That revelation surprised fans who had long viewed them as one of Hollywood's strongest couples. Their story is still worth telling, but not as a perfect fairy tale. Meryl Streep and Don Gummer shared decades, children, privacy, loyalty, and history. Even after separation, their relationship remains a rare example of a long Hollywood bond that ended quietly rather than publicly falling apart. Dolly Parton and Carl Dean. Dolly Parton arrived in Nashville in 1964 with dirty laundry, big ambition, and no idea that a stop at the wishy-washy laundromat would change the rest of her life. She was only 18. Carl Dean noticed her outside, and unlike the music industry, he did not see her as a product to sell. He saw the young woman herself. 2 years later, in 1966, they married in a small private ceremony in Georgia. Dolly was beginning the climb toward country music superstardom, while Carl wanted nothing to do with celebrity life. He ran an asphalt business, avoided red carpets, and stayed so private that some fans joked he might not even be real. How did one of the most visible women in entertainment stay married to a man who refused the spotlight? The answer was distance from the noise. Dolly built an empire through music, film, television, business, and philanthropy. Carl stayed home, protected his privacy, and supported her without needing attention. She often said their differences helped the marriage survive. He liked quiet routines. She belonged to the stage. Neither tried to force the other into a life they did not want. They never had children, but Dolly later said her career and her wider love for children shaped that choice. Their home life remained mostly hidden, built around humor, independence, and simple loyalty. Carl Dean died in Nashville on March 3, 2025, at the age of 82. Dolly later honored him with the song "If You Hadn't Been There." Their story was not a public performance. It was nearly 6 decades of private devotion behind one of the brightest careers in American music. Bob Newhart and Virginia Ginny Quinn. Bob Newhart was one of America's quietest comedy legends, famous for turning hesitation, awkward pauses, and nervous timing into an entire style of humor. Off-camera, his life was anchored by Virginia Ginny Quinn, the woman who stayed beside him through 6 decades of marriage, family television success, and old age. Their relationship began with a blind date arranged by comedian Buddy Hackett. Newhart was already building his reputation, while Ginny, the daughter of actor Bill Quinn, understood show business without being dazzled by it. The match worked. On January 12, 1963, On January 12, 1963, Bob and Ginny married, beginning one of the longest and warmest partnerships in Hollywood. What kept them together was not fame, but a shared sense of humor that never disappeared. As Bob became a television favorite through The Bob Newhart Show, and Newhart Ginny helped keep their private life steady. They raised 4 children, Robert, Timothy, Jennifer, and Courtney, and later became grandparents to 10. Their marriage was not built around red carpets or public drama. It was built around family patience and the ability to laugh through ordinary life. Ginny even influenced television history. She suggested the famous ending of Newhart, where the whole series was revealed as a dream connected to The Bob Newhart Show. That idea became one of the most memorable finales in sitcom history. Their marriage lasted 60 years, ending only when Ginny died in April 2023. Bob passed away the following year at 94. Together, they left behind more than jokes and television memories. They left behind a rare Hollywood love story built on loyalty, humor, and a lifetime of companionship. Alda and Arlene Alda. Alda became one of the most familiar faces on American television through MASH, where his warmth, wit, and intelligence made Hawkeye Pierce unforgettable. But away from the cameras, the person who shared nearly every stage of his adult life was Arlene Alda, a musician, photographer, and writer with a creative identity of her own. They met in 1956 at a dinner party while they were both young students in New York. The famous story involves a rum cake that fell on the floor, and Alan and Arlene being among the only people willing to eat it. But the cake was only part of the charm. What mattered more was that they immediately recognized the same humor in each other. How does a marriage last when one partner becomes a television icon and the other refuses to disappear behind him? Alan and Arlene married on March 15, 1957. As his career expanded through acting, writing, directing, science communication, and later podcasting. Arlene built her own life through photography, music, and books. Together, they raised 3 daughters, Eve, Elizabeth, and Beatrice. Their marriage endured long before celebrity couples were expected to turn private life into public branding. They did not rely on scandal, constant interviews, or dramatic declarations. Their bond seemed to come from curiosity, conversation, shared laughter, and the ability to keep learning from one another. In later years, Alan's Parkinson's disease added new challenges, but Arlene remained part of the steady foundation around him. By 2025, they had been married for 68 years. Their story stands out because it is not loud. It is thoughtful, funny, loyal, and quietly remarkable. Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira. Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira were more than a long-married Hollywood couple. They were a comedy team, stage partners, television faces, and two sharply different personalities who somehow made each other funnier. Jerry was Jewish intense and full of nervous energy. Ann was Irish Catholic, quick-witted, and fearless with a punchline. Together, they became Stiller and Mira. They met in New York in the early 1950s before either of them was famous. Their connection grew through acting classes, small jobs, and the demanding world of live performance. In 1954, they married, beginning a partnership that would last 61 years and become one of the most respected marriages in American comedy. What made them special was that their love and their work kept feeding each other. As Stiller and Mira, they appeared on variety shows, talk shows, commercials, and comedy programs, building a reputation for timing, contrast, and believable arguments. Their humor often came from the same differences that shaped their marriage. They could tease each other, challenge each other, and still make the audience feel the affection underneath. At home, they raised two children, Amy and Ben Stiller. Ben later became a major comedy star himself, carrying the family's entertainment legacy into another generation. But Jerry and Ann's influence was never only about fame. It was about craft, loyalty, and surviving a difficult business without losing the bond that started it all. Ann Mira died in 2015, ending a marriage that had lasted more than 6 decades. Jerry Stiller followed in 2020. Their story remains powerful because they did not just stay married. They created, argued, laughed, aged, and built a life together in front of America. Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee. Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee belong to a generation of performers who treated art as more than entertainment. They were actors, writers, activists, and partners whose marriage became deeply tied to Black theater, American film, and the civil rights movement. Their bond was not built around glamour. It was built around shared purpose. They met in the 1940s while working in theater at a time when opportunities for Black performers were still limited and often unfairly controlled. Ruby Dee had already shown the intelligence and strength that would define her career. Ossie Davis brought warmth, discipline, and a commanding voice. Together, they found not only romance but a creative partnership. They married on December 9th, 1948. Over the decades, they appeared together on stage, in film, and on television, including projects that helped expand the image of Black life beyond stereotypes. Their work carried dignity, seriousness, humor, and political weight. What made their marriage powerful was that love and principle moved in the same direction. Ossie and Ruby stood beside major figures in the civil rights struggle, supported racial justice, and used their public voices when silence would have been easier. They were close to Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr., and their activism became part of their legacy as much as their performances. Their marriage lasted until Ossie Davis died in 2005. Ruby Dee continued working and speaking with the same grace until her death in 2014. Together, they left behind a rare example of partnership, two artists who loved each other, challenged each other, raised a family, and used fame to serve something larger than themselves. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward became one of the most admired couples of classic Hollywood. Not because their marriage was simple, but because it lasted through fame, work, family, and the pressure of being watched for half a century. He was the blue-eyed movie star everyone wanted to photograph. She was an Oscar-winning actress with talent strong enough to stand beside him, not behind him. They first met in 1953 while working around the Broadway production of Picnic. Newman was still married at the time, so the connection did not begin cleanly or easily. Their relationship deepened years later while filming The Long Hot Summer. And after Newman's first marriage ended, he and Woodward married on January 29, 1958. What made them different was that their marriage also became a creative partnership. They acted together, challenged, and Woodward married on January 29, 1958. What made them different each other and built a professional rhythm that lasted for decades. Woodward won an Academy Award early in their marriage for The Three Faces of Eve, while Newman grew into one of the most respected actors of his generation. He later directed her in several projects, trusting her talent in a way that showed real artistic respect. At home, they raised 3 daughters together, Nell, Melissa, and Claire. Their life was not only about Hollywood. Newman also became known for philanthropy, especially through Newman's Own and the Hole in the Wall gang camp, while Woodward remained central to the family and their shared public legacy. Their marriage lasted 50 years, ending only when Paul Newman died in 2008. It was not a flawless fairy tale. It was passionate, complicated, private, creative, and enduring enough to become one of Hollywood's most remembered partnerships. Carl Reiner and Estelle Reiner. Carl Reiner spent decades shaping American comedy from behind and in front of the camera. He wrote, acted, directed, and helped create The Dick Van Dyke Show, becoming one of the sharpest comic minds of his generation. At home, the woman who shared that long creative life was Estelle Reiner, his wife for more than 6 decades. Estelle was born Estelle Lebost and had her own artistic spirit. She was not simply the wife of a famous comedian. She sang jazz, acted, occasionally raised their family, and understood the rhythm of show business without needing constant attention from it. Carl and Estelle married in 1943, long before television made him a household name. What made their partnership last was that humor lived inside the house, not just on the screen. Together, they raised 3 children, including Rob Reiner, who later became a major actor and director himself. The family became part of Hollywood's comedy bloodstream, but Carl often made it clear that Estelle remained the emotional center of his life. She was direct, funny, and strong enough to stand beside a man whose career filled rooms with larger-than-life personalities. Estelle also gave film history one unforgettable moment. In When Harry Met Sally, she delivered the famous line, "I'll have what she's having," turning a brief appearance into one of the most quoted scenes in romantic comedy. Estelle died in 2008 after 64 years of marriage. Carl lived until 2020, often speaking with warmth about the life they built. Their story was not loud or scandal-driven. It was a long marriage rooted in comedy, family loyalty, and a shared creative world that kept echoing through generations. Kirk Douglas and Ann Bidens. Paris, in 1953, did not hand Kirk Douglas an easy romance. He was already one of Hollywood's most magnetic leading men, filming Act of Love and used to people saying yes to him. Ann Bidens, a sharp, multilingual publicist from Europe, was not impressed that easily. When Kirk tried to charm her, she kept her distance. That resistance may have been exactly what caught his attention. Ann was intelligent, practical, and direct. She did not treat Kirk like a movie god. She treated him like a man who needed discipline, honesty, and someone strong enough to challenge him. In 1954, they married, beginning a partnership that would last for more than 6 decades. What made Ann different was that she helped protect Kirk from himself. Kirk Douglas had fame, power, and a reputation for being difficult. Ann brought order into his life. She helped manage his career, watched over his finances, and later became deeply involved in philanthropy. Their marriage was not free of pain. Kirk admitted to affairs, and Anne knew he was not always easy to live with. But she also understood the man behind the image and chose to build a life that was bigger than scandal. Together, they raised their sons, Peter and Eric, while also supporting Kirk's children from his first marriage, Michael and Joel. Over time, their public legacy shifted from Hollywood glamour to giving, especially through the Douglas Foundation. Kirk died in 2020 after 66 years of marriage. Anne followed in 2021. Their story remains powerful because it was not perfect. It was stubborn, honest, tested, and held together by a woman strong enough to stand beside a legend without disappearing behind him.